Good morning. Oh, it's a bit bright there. It is a bright and sunshiny morning. Well, it's partly cloudy here in Hamilton, New Zealand. We are going to put back together Stihl 026 today. The crank, and we'll show you that in a second. Yeah, I've just done a bit of a clean up on it. That's all I've done off screen, and I've just set up the PTO or the clutch side bearing to go back in, and so that's all ready to go underway. We'll put that one through, and then you can see me fiddling around with the flywheel side bearing just to get that in. But yeah, here we go again. All right, here in front of me, this is the flywheel side of the crankcase, and that's the bearing for it. It's quite a thin, small bearing. All right, so that'll go back together shortly. But here I have set up. This is how I do it. So I've got quite a large bolt going through the middle of this. I've got the old bearing from the 2.6 pushing in the new bearing, and I just tighten this bolt. I use a lot of square washers. I want to get some round ones eventually, but this is what I have, so I use it. This is a bit of DIY saw stuff. So yeah, and then a big impact socket to go into the base. So basically the bearing pushes on the outer case of the bearing, which is where the proper pressure is to be, and then onto the case on the other side with this big impact socket. So I can get my big 19mm socket on there. I'm using a deep impact on this side just to pull it through, and that is just sliding through just nicely. I don't use heat on bearings. I pull them through cold. I don't like heating up cases. I don't think it's a good idea. You can blister all the coatings on the case and cause yourself serious injury as well, because the cases have to be super heated way above, I think it's 200 degrees Celsius. They have to be hot, and the bearings have to go in the freezer. So there's all sorts of stresses going on there, and I just don't like it. For one, just don't like it. All right, so that's about it for this bearing. What I've got to do now for this one is check that the oiler fits up snugly to that bearing. And before I put this bearing in too, it's very important that you grease around the edges of the bearing and the edges of the case where you're sliding it into, because it just stops all that dry metal on metal. Like the bearing's hard metal when the cases are only soft, so you're going to take off a lot of metal and cause yourself a lot of problems if you don't sort of play that game properly. So you can see the smudgy sort of grease around. So yeah, that's well greased up. You don't want that dry at all. And that bearing is just sitting absolutely beautiful there. So I'm just going to put this on, and I'll just take out that. I don't need that anymore. All right, and I'm just gonna fit this down and just see if my bearing needs to come up anymore. I think that is, from what I can see, that's actually fitting perfectly. So this bearing comes through a certain way. You can see the ridge of it. Here we go. You can see the ridge of it just sticking up there through the casing. That's this bit of the bearing around here, and that is where the oiler seats onto. So that's very important. So you want this reasonably flush on this side with that metal coming through, so that you know that the oiler is going to seat down well onto that bearing. Very important. Okay, so that is the bearing for the PTO or clutch side, whatever you like to call it. Just wipe that grease out of there. That grease, I mean, I could leave that grease in there. It's lithium grease. It'll just burn up. And yeah. Also, at this point, I just like to get my grease gun and just hit those bearings. With the grease, with the lithium grease, this is okay to run in the engine, this grease. Okay, good lithium grease in there. And I just, that's just like a lovely start to life, for a new bearing, all greased up like that. Yeah, so that's the PTO side, all done there for the bearing stage anyway. Now we'll move on to our flywheel side. So here you see the flywheel side's all nicely cleaned up. So we'll just get that grease again, and I'll show you what I mean. Just gonna put a few daubs around the edges here, and then just wipe it around all over that casing, just in there, just so it's gonna really nicely go in there. And then I get the bearing, and then I just do the same as that. There's probably enough grease on that case, but hey, if you can, why not? You know, it's just like, it's added benefit for protection for your casings and your bearings. Mainly the casing, because the casing's soft magnesium, you know. So that can just go and pop down into there now. Okay. Alright. Now just to get this started just a little bit, you know, I mean a little bit. That is light tapping. That's just to get it started. And you just want to check it over and just make sure that that bearing is just seated evenly like that. A little bit more on that side. You just want it bedded down really evenly in there. Okay. So once that's done, we can then grab some older bearings. I've got a bunch of 026 older bearings here. This is how I do it, okay? This is not correct tooling. This is DIY bearings. Okay. So I'm just gonna put that down there like that. Slide my bolt through. And I'll get to lining all those up as well. And then I'll get my wrong one. That's 27. I get my big 32mm deep impact and fit that. That fits really nicely onto that outer casing there. Okay. Then I'm just going to get my washers and just pack that out, leaving enough room for my bolt to go on, of course, for my nut to go on. Okay. Put that on there. So this is exactly how I did the last one. Like, I haven't done one of these since my 4.6, so you know there's months in between, so I just have to refresh myself a bit each time, and that's okay. That's okay. Can do that. And so I just wanted to refresh myself a bit off camera before I got to this stage and was mucking around, sort of trying to show you guys why I'm mucking around. You know, it's Not fair. So there you go, you can see that replicated setup there, bearings and the big deep impact again. So I just get my 19mm deep impact. I use the deep impact because it's got heaps of scope, like heaps of thread. I'm just not going to run out. And then I'm just going to do that same thing, start pulling that bearing through into place. And that's just I'm just checking that. See, that's just gonna need a little tap in the right direction. It's just gone uneven on there. This side's not as bad because it doesn't have that sharp edge like what the TTO flywheel side bearing does. There's a real sharp edge on that, and that is just going down slightly crooked, so I'm just going to get my hammer. Just correct that a bit in there. Okay, so that's lots better now. So I'm just going to go back and chuck my bearings through again. That's really like tapping, like I'm not doing much there at all. Not thrashing anything. Not deeply hurting anything. Soft as, gentle as, nice and calm, slow, methodical. That's what you want to be when you're doing this stuff. You don't want to be in a rush. If you're in a rush doing this, just do yourself a favour, put this down, get yourself out of a rush, get yourself out of a rush, and then come back and just I mean, you can, like, I'm not saying don't do it fast. If you're working on saws or something like that in a shop and you need to get it done, then do it. And you probably got the proper tools, unlike me fiddling around with all this stuff. But I think what I'm saying is just be in that mindset where you're not rushing, where you're taking your time and making sure things are going to go together right, because this is, you know, this guy's paying money for his saw to be put back together in the right way. He wants to see a good result at the end of it, and I can understand that, and I want to give a good result too. Okay, that's just going awry again. So I'm just going to take it off and tap it again. Sometimes it's like this, sometimes they just go sweet for me, and then other times it's just that bit more mucking around. Again, I would like to have the proper tools, but I also think there's ways, if you're doing this as a DIY hobby, there's ways to get this done without, it's actually not too bad, this. It's actually going in pretty good. Going in pretty good. Yeah, so there's ways to do this without destroying everything. What I might do now is just put a deeper impact on this side. Maybe something like this guy. What's that one? 27. And push that in there with that, and got a bit more room on the other side, so I could use it. use something like this on the other side for the nut to fit. Oh no, I'll go a bit smaller actually. So it fits nicely on that outer edge. Yeah, maybe a 19 or something like that. It's perfect. So 19 and 27 on there. Again, I'll just get my long bolt through there, down again, and on goes a 19 onto there. A couple of washers. Probably only need to use one really. This might even be a better way to do it in the first place, had I thought about it a bit more. See, that's the thing, you're always learning. Always learning. It's just not sitting right there, that 19. Wind that on. And wind it in. That feels better now. And that's it. You don't have to tighten the crap out of it. It's going to sit flush. Just sit up against the casing. So yeah, hey, probably a bit of mucking around, but the end result is pretty good. Yeah. That probably needs to go in just a slight bit more in there. Really just looking for that to be pretty flush. So I'll just maybe get something 22, nah, a bit larger, 22, 24. That fits on there pretty good now. So I'll just go back and we should use that 24 in the first place. Just want to snug that up a bit more, and we'll just go back to that 19mm. But I'm not rushing, guys. Even though I'm videoing it for you, you might have fallen asleep now. Don't even think anyone's watching anyway. But this is how it's done for me. Right or wrong? Right or wrong? I'm just gonna crank that a bit more. And hopefully that's sitting a bit more around where I want it to be. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm pretty happy with that. So there you go. Sitting in there nice is our lovely flywheel side bearing. Woohoo! Woohoo, guys! I get excited about that sort of thing. Another one conquered, it's like each time I do it, I just don't lose the thrill of doing this. And you're probably thinking, what thrill? You're sitting there like a statue, mate. But this is my hobby. I love doing this, and the thrill of putting a saw together and having it work for you is just second to none in my books. I really enjoy it. You get it all back together. That's why I'm a little bit miffed with my 011T at the moment, you know, like, it's annoying the crap out of me. I'll get it going right though. I'll figure it out, whether it is a new carb or what. I'll sort it out. Right, so all those things can go away now. Just slide over to here, and we'll bring back our flywheel side and the crank, which I've got down there all cleaned up as well. Because I always do the flywheel side, I always pull through the flywheel side crank. Always. Always pull that through before the like, because this has got the taper on it. This side is always easier to do. Okay, so always pull that through. So I'm going to use the clutch to do it. Have to get that out of there, of course. Alright, let's flick you up through there. Yeah, that'll sit out of the way now. Yeah, so I do use the clutch to do it and pull that through. You probably need, see, again, this is like, every saw's a little bit different for me, and I just have to muddle my way through it a little bit. And this is a bit of case when you're pulling this through, you want to just bring everything through. Just quite slowly, quite nicely. Actually, I know what I use on there, I'm not going to use that. I'll go back to bearings. Chuck a bearing on there and push this through. Oh, that's too thick to start off with. It's too thick to start off with. Could use a smaller bearing. I'm pulling through on the, yeah, I'm pulling through on the, no, I don't want to use a small bearing. What do I want to do? Sorry guys, just having a bit of a moment, brain freeze going on. There we go. In a race of a 6.6, and I'll just dig up this clutch now. Wherever it's gone. Where did I put the clutch? There it is. There it is. My box of parts. So left-handed onto there, and that clutch will go down. I'll just stick a washer onto that so that clutch can go on there quite nicely. It'll still give us enough thread. Plenty of thread, and it'll pull it through as well. Just put it down here. For some reason it's not going on. It's probably not enough thread actually. Alright, scrap that plan. if you think I look like a novice, that's because I am a novice. Okay, so here we go. I'm going left, pulling this crank through. So you want your weight to be on the inner race of the bearing now. You don't want to be touching that outer race. This is where the pressure needs to be on the inner race as it pulls through this crank. And that's working just great. So before it goes all the way and really tightens up, I'm just going to release it. Release it. Wash up. Need another washer. Can we do that? Too thin. Clutch back on. And just start pulling that through again. Just might set this up in the vise for a second as I'm pulling this through. Just loosely, just so it holds it. There's no pressure on the vise, it can all slip free and through. Saves my fingers. Oh, you can't see it either. You tip you forward. Oh, everything's turning to custard. Yeah. Wow. Sorry, I'm gonna have to do this slightly off screen. Budget is. So yeah, I always put this PTO side on first. To get this crank through. And it's coming. It's coming. And just about there. Just about there. See it coming through. All right. I'm just chucking 2 washers now. And that should be enough to get us to where we need to be. Back in the vise. And there's no pressure on anything here, guys. It's just all, I'm hardly cranking this, you know. Let's bring that crank up you'll just feel it all stop. As that crank contacts that side of that bearing. But this is what you got to do. Like if you want to do DIY saw stuff, I don't have the correct pulling tools. Maybe I should get some with Matt Olson or something like that. I don't know. But for now, this is how I roll. Right or wrong. Right or wrong. So. Get that off there. Alright. Now we can see our crank is sitting up against that bearing. I just wouldn't mind giving that a little bit more of a tighten down there actually. A little bit more in there, I think it needs. Just a touch more. Total of 3 washers in there now. I'll just try and hold it for this one. I can't. It's too tight now. That is there, that is home. Just there. I only had a bit more to go, I just wanted that touch more out of it. Okay. So there we have our crank pulled through. And that is spinning very nicely on that new bearing. Very happy with how this has gone. Yeah, that bearing's going to rock. It's not ceramics. Can do ceramics, but Steve didn't want to go there with this one, I don't think. Probably he spent a bit of money on this saw already, like buying it, and then it failed him, and then we've had carb issues, and then fuel line issues. Yeah. Just so much going on with the saw basically, and so here we are finally just going, let's just rebuild it, make sure everything's right, and we'll go from there. Now it's at this point where I like to get my little grease gun again, because otherwise I'll forget when it's down the crank, when it's all together, that I just like to put some grease on our bottom end bearing there, because it's all been cleaned out and it's got nothing in there, and it just gives it that really good start to life. So you can just see in there that bearing is just full of grease now. And that's all the lithium grease again, same one I put in the bearings. Okay, and that's just quality of life straight off the bat for this saw. So now we can set this bit aside and swap back to our lovely flywheel side. To me, these are always the sweet sides, these flywheel sides. No, we'll put it on both sides anyway. Just get that bit out of there. So I'm going with gasket maker on this. I just have to wipe that surface down again. It's just in the in the interim, bit of grease or something's got on there. Okay, that'll be right now. You can just put the gaskets down just sort of as is. Right. Yeah, sorry. You can just, I'm just trying to open this thing up. All the things I should do before I start filming, eh? There we go. Just clear that right out of there. Right. Right, there we go. Now you can actually just put the gaskets straight onto these saws, especially the trustworthy genuine gaskets. But for me, putting a better gasket maker on there, and this is my Permatex again, this is just insurance, because it's like at the end of the day, oh, how do you know there's no air leak in there? You know, I put the gasket on, could still be an air leak. Maybe it doesn't fit right up to the gasket properly or something like that, you know. But this is just like, it's insurance. It just says, you shall not have an air leak in this section of your saw. You know, for the most part anyway. And I just pat that down with my finger. Now this stuff is made for this, like it's literally made for it. It's oil resistant. You can see on here, see that? Maximum oil resistance. So oil, fuel, heat, all that stuff. This stuff is just like, yep, sweet as, no worries. So you put this together wet. Some sealants you let them tack off a bit, but this one is not one of these. Clearly says on the back of the label to put it together when it's wet. And I'm just going to put some on this side as well, and then we'll chuck our crank bolts in there, because that's the other trick of how I do this, because you can't really grip onto this side. There's not enough room to put, like on this side of your crank, there's not enough room to put stuff in to pull it all through the other side, and I don't trust the threads as much on this side. On the it's just a little one for that 13mm bolt that goes on your flywheel, so I don't trust that at all. What I do is I use the crank bolt case bolts to pull it all together, because you can get a fair way in straight up with this taper on here through that flywheel side bearing. So that's the way I do it, and that's the way you're going to see me do it. All right. So I'll just break out the gasket too. So you can see genuine Stihl. These ones came from the Stihl shop in Te in Hamilton. So thank you, Stihl shop Te. If anyone from Stihl shop Te is listening, you could charge me a bit less next time. That would be great. Not making any money off this, or that's what you do for your mates. I'm not making any money at all. There's no gain here, except for the love of doing saws. That is my gain. That is my gain. I don't do that for everyone though. There's only a couple of people I'd ever do free saws for. Only a couple of people at all. And that's cool. I've just got a couple of close mates that I do saws for. Everyone else can pay. Especially when you're talking about getting into ceramic bearings and doing those up, and because I got to pull all the bearings apart to do those, you know. Can be a bit tedious, especially getting them back together. And you're talking about, you know, the sort of the minor port work I do, all that sort of guff, you know, a lot of time and effort, and yeah. So there's only a few I'll do it for free. But I'm just, you just get your finger and you just lightly patting this on, and not much of it. It doesn't need, like, you don't need to drown it. Just want a nice sort of sticky, stippled look to everything. It's a slight build up on there. A lot of the times when I've seen like the gaskets fail, they're failing in the up in the oil first, up in here, and I haven't seen one fail into here, into the crank yet, but they always seem to fail down this bottom part. So what a great like fix to not fix is the wrong word, but what a great I guess insurance is the best word there. What a great piece of insurance to put this gasket maker on, and have it work for you in that area as well, to help your gaskets from stopping failure in that area. Because I mean, to pull a saw apart for an oil leak like that, I always just smooth this stuff off on the top like that, plug it all up so there's no air can get in there, and put a bit of plastic on the top. You can use Vaseline too. Who uses Vaseline? Donny Boy 73. Watch his videos, guys. He's if you like saw building and things like that, he's he does all sorts of things as well. He's a Canadian guy. He lives where it snows. Okay, so now we're going to put these two halves together. I have all those bolts there. That one's a bit gunked up. Just get a bit of something to clean that out with. A bit of wire. I did have my ear on, but it'll make a hell of a noise. Right, there's that one. Once again, you know, things I should be doing before I start up videos. One day, a dream of mine is to have a proper shed set up for this, just dedicated to saws, and that's my dream. And I'll just have a saw shop for doing this, for putting saws together. All right, so it's got locator dowels here and here, and they're going to go and slide onto that crank. Now that gasket maker is holding on that gasket. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. Settle that down in there. Yep. Let's get this bit of paper. Saw this trick this morning on the chainsaw guy, the West Coast chainsaw muscle saw builder. Have you seen that guy? He calls himself the chainsaw guy, and he just had a bit of paper through there holding up the rod like that. I thought, man, that's a bit of me. That's pretty simple. I can do that. Okay. So just press that together. Make sure those locator dowels are going into the right place there. That chainsaw guy, I would love to pick his brains on porting and everything like that, like August Haneke, the arborist, goes and gets his saws done by him, you know, and they always come back. He just amazing, truly amazing saws. The port work he does on them and things like that is just so super cool. And August took a one of those new 2511 Echoes, those new small top handles. He took one into the Chainsaw King and he just transformed it into a little snotty beast. It's just so cool. But the depth of knowledge a guy like that would have on saws and stuff like that, you know, would just be amazing. And he's a bit like, he's definitely a cool dude, pretty old school. Not trying to knock him in any way. Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say now. It's probably gonna, I don't know. I think I just stopped myself there because I was probably gonna sound like I was running him down, but I don't mean to, and I don't want to, so I'm stopping. But anyway, the chainsaw guy. So that's the 5 case bolts just gone in there now. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull those in. And they'll just pull that whole crank right through. You just got to be so gentle when you start this off though, because the threads are only just in there, and if you use any kind of force, you will end up threading stuff. This is a non-force process. Like, I'm using my fingertips on here. You see that? I'm just going like this. Fingertips, all right? I'm not cranking them up. When I get them home, yeah, I'll crank them, but not while I'm pulling this through. So you can see those case bolts going through. And that's when I flip it to this side. Make sure you do these front ones up as you go as well, so that the crank goes together evenly. Okay? So that the case all pulls together evenly. I can see that just bowing a little bit at the front now, so I'm going to hit this back one. Alright, and I'm going to hit this top front one in here. case. And you'll feel when they've had enough too, like they just nip up and you're like, okay, that's enough for that one. I'm doing the bottom one now. Yep, that one's just nipped up. And I mean just nipped up. I'll go to this back one now because that front case is pulled together quite well. You just watch it, like you don't just keep on going over the same ones, the same pattern, because the case is going like this as you're doing it. So you've got to watch, if the front ones are staying like that, then keep on pulling the back ones in. Just make sure it's all even. Okay, and now the front one. See, this back's tightened up now, so now I've got to go to the front. Now I've got to just make sure that bottom one's going in right as well. It's in there. Okay, that's not nipping up, but I can see this back is still open quite a way. And that front is closed off again, so you've got to pull it back. Alright. And then we'll go for this front top one. This middle top one. Again. And just close that one up. It's just about there. I'm not rushing it. I'm getting everything just nice. And that you can see there that flywheel side has just popped through, because that tape is so easy just to push through. There's not much that goes into the bearing. I mean, there's the bearing race length, but it's not like the PTO side where you're pulling it through that much as opposed to that much, you know. So once you've got these bolts in, see, that's home now. So I'll just, the bottom one's home. But that's why I watch all these guys, because like that piece of paper trick, I've actually never thought of just rolling up a piece of paper and holding that rod up like that. Never. And it seems so obvious. But if you don't watch all these guys who have been doing it for years and years and years, you're just not going to learn. And you're going to make lots of mistakes that they've already made and learnt about, and you can just learn off them, so you don't have to make those mistakes. Some of those mistakes can be costly. So, everything is home now. So we're just going to go around and tighten all of these. Nice and tight. Good now. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. And that one is good. Woohoo! There you go, guys. That's crank all together. Kiwi lad style. Okay, I'm just going to pull this out of here now, and I get my knife. Oh, that's nice. That's turning nice. That's great. Okay, so I'll just get my knife now, and there's tabs sitting up from the gasket there up into the bottom of where the cylinder sits in the cylinder gasket. And so this is a very sharp knife, and I cut away from the cylinder and just take that tab off with a very, very sharp knife. It's like a, you know, craft knifey thing. and I just make sure it's trimmed right down like that. Now that's the other reason, like even though I've trimmed that really flush, I still put gasket maker on here because I always worried about the air leaks in this little section where those gaskets pop up. I just think it's a high leak zone. I'm just going to trim that back one off now. Come in from this side. There we go. Again, I'm cutting away. Nothing's going to get into the crankcase. Okay. And I'll just come back for another stroke over, just to make sure. Cool. That is beautiful. That is really beautiful. I'm really, really happy with that. That is just sitting so nicely in there. Alright, that's that. From here you can go and put the seals in. Can do that now, that's not going to take long, and then I'll probably wind it up for this video. So you've got to get the that top end bearing in. Got to put the piston back on, and then the cylinder goes back down, and all that stuff takes time, and I don't want to rush it today, and I don't want to make the video too much longer, because I've got other things, other responsibilities and stuff I've got to go and sort out as well. Even though I'd like to stay in here for the rest of the day and just do saws, because I've got so many saws to work on it. I tell you what, just for a special treat, I'll just take you for a little look at all the projects that I've got on here with saws that hopefully you'll get to see being worked on in videos and things like that. All right, so I'll just put that like that. And now, should I put it like that? I'll just put that big. Right, I'm just going to set that up there. Or should I put it in the vise? Oh, I could rest it in the vise. Then you don't get to see it. Dilemmas. That's all right. Should have said, oh no, that's the first one. All right, that's all right. So I've got the flywheels, the seals kit. These seals kits are great. Get these if you're building the saw, the genuine ones. They're not that expensive for what they are. I think this one was 65 New Zealand dollars. You hear my New Zealandness coming out there. And you get all of the gaskets for the saw. So case gasket. See in there, you get your muffler gasket and your base gasket for your piston cylinder, as well as your two genuine seals. So value for money. Like these are, I think these are $65 if you buy them separately without those gaskets. So you might as well get the whole kit. Well, they might even be a little bit more. They could be even a little bit more. Right. So, oil. I just squared a bit in there. Okay. And it's not as tough on this flywheel side. This flywheel side's always easy. And you just push that down into there. Okay. Then you just get your your socket. I might just get a slightly larger one so it's out on that edge a bit more. So this is the 13mm, and that's probably about where you want to be. This sits nicely out on that edge. And just get your hammer. And just tap that home. Well, not home. You don't want to go. You just want to make it nice and flush in there. Okay. Let's test that. How's that turning? It's still good. It's a little bit more down now. Alright, so that's left room for that flywheel, just the flywheel key to pop through. It still just needs a little bit more. That's it. Yeah, so that's pretty flush on there now. That's great. That seals home nicely. The tricky one is always. Why is that not sitting there like that? It'd be funny. Right, there we go. Sorry that's in there. I actually don't want to take this off this oiler because it's going to split the hose and more problems, more issues, you know. Anyway, that is just falling over. Oh yeah, that'll work. That'll work. What can I put under there? Just need something to slide underneath there. So there we go. There we go. Right. So this is a much harder seal, I believe, because you've got it can invert over the top of the crank, the part of the crank that the bearing sits through. It's got quite a sharp edge on it, and so you've got to be a bit careful when sorting that part out. And what did I do with the seal now? Great. Just great. What did I do with that seal? Tell me I've lost it. Can anyone see what I did with that seal? Anyone watching? No one's watching. I should have left it in the packet. Where it was nice. Oh, here we go. It's just by my knife. Man, I hate losing bits like that. I hate losing new parts that you've just bought. I often find them again, but sometimes I have to tear my whole shed apart because, yeah, or some bit flies off and it goes down the back or something, and just like, oh well, it's going to be one of those days, isn't it? So yeah, I just make sure, you can see here, I just grease the back of this seal up, like that. So that's just all slides nicely onto that crank. And inside there, you can see that silver bit, that's a spring. And if that spring comes off, you're in trouble, because that's what holds the tension of the seal around the crank. Okay. So I'm just gonna, I just work this around slowly. And just pop it on there like that. Then you get your bigger. I might drop down to, that's a 24. Drop down to a 22. That's it. So a 22mm deep impact. Actually, one thing I struggle to do with these seals without deep impacts, they're a great tool. There's so many uses for them. And again, you're just looking to bring it home. Nice and evenly. And that seal is going to go in there pretty well. And you're just looking for this to be flush. You don't want to drive it too deep because it'll hit the inside of those bearings and then you're in trouble. So you want it flush with the bearing. It's got to go just a little bit more. Going down pretty evenly. I'm just going to do a final drive home there. As that seal sits nicely down into there. Okay, and that's pretty cool. So just setting up just a touch. So that is how you get your seals in. And I always give them just a little flick around when the seals have gone in, like that. Just in case anything's sitting funny. But you can see that that seal is just sitting nicely against, there's no inversion, so the seal hasn't inverted, no funny business going on. And you can see the seal around that side, no funny business going on. And so that is your crankcase ready to go together. Like, I could stick this oiler on now and down so it's out of the way. I probably will. All those little things will start to come together for this saw, and we are up to the stage now where we can put the top end bearing in to the rod from the crank and put your piston on the top, and then start getting our cylinder on. All that sort of thing's coming now. That's the next stage, working on this area of the saw. And then after that, it's just all the rest that bolts back together. Nice and straight and simple. And fingers crossed that we've sorted all of this ear leak issues on the saw. And she's going to be a mean runner. Anyway, that's me, guys. Oh, I said I'd take you out for a little run. It might be a bit bright out here. Look at that. Look at that. Can you see that? That is a brand new 261. Smashed it to bits. That's what happens when you throw trees at your chainsaw. Don't throw trees at your chainsaw. I've got a MS361, I think it is. Yeah, that's got a busted AV mount, so that's going to go on. Oh, this 261, that's going to get either become a part saw or we'll put it back together, but it needs both cases actually, because the other crankcase side AV mount's all broken out of it. New handle, new starter. So that'll either be a full rebuild or we'll yeah. Look at the bit. It's got a container of bits. Yeah, so that's that. Those ones. Got a box full of it's a rear handle in there, MS200 rear handle. That's got to go together. Yeah, so that is all that. All right, guys, it's time to get out of here now. It's time to go do something else. Unfortunately, makes me want to cry. because I don't want to leave the saws alone. I want to get on to the next bit. But hey, we've got to go. Got to go live life somewhere else. So I'm gonna flip my hat around so you can see the Stihl shop logo. Yeah, yeah, boy. And I'll say, Stihl for life. We'll see you later.